All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the praise and the glory and the honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rahak Wadash, which have given me the spirit and inspiration to do this lesson. All right, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well and that teach well through the spirit and the power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Wa Shalom, wa Barakim to the elect, beginning with 144,000, which are scattered abroad in every place, redeeming the time and ready to be saved. Shalom. All right, now I'll make this, pretty quick. I got somewhere important I gotta be. All right, but I was watching one of the elders' lessons, man, and I got the spirit. The spirit came on me to do a lesson myself on this topic. All right, which is, you see the title concerning grace, this grace period. All right, this grace period that we're in now is not recognized enough, man. All right, the only ones that is recognized by is the elect of Israel. All right, the elect of Israel, and that's and they are the 1/3 of the 1/3 of Israel that the Bible speaks of. But the 2/3, they don't understand that they are in a grace period as well. All right, because really, ultimately, before I go any further, let me say this: the grace period is really for the elect. All right, it's really for the elect. But the rest of the nation, which is the 2/3, they are given a chance as well to get right. Okay, but they're not recognizing that Yahweh Shai Shai is being long suffered and patient. All right, with them, really with all of us. All right, but the difference is that we realize it, we understand, we understand it. Okay, but 2/3, they don't realize that they know you got, especially these Christians. They talk about how we're under grace and not under the law, but they don't understand what that truly means when they don't understand what it truly means to be under grace. All right, they don't really know what it means. All right, us being under grace, because look, the law is not done away with. We can get scriptures to prove that the law is not done away with. We still have to consider the law. What it tells you that in the book of Proverbs, my son. What is that? Proverbs. Salakia. Because I was just reading it. What's that? Proverbs 3. It says, "My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments." All right. Now, the law is not to be forgotten about. All right, but no, we continually we're supposed to acknowledge them. All right, but we're not justified by those laws, by the commandments. All right, you see, but we're justified by faith, and that's what the grace comes in. The us being under grace comes in. That's what Salaki. That's what being under grace contributes. Us being justified by grace. All right, because like I said, we're not The law is not done away with. All right, we keep the law to the best of our ability, but being in this grace period, being under grace, that allows us not to be punished for, okay, examples, working on the Sabbath, for sinning, breaking any law. All right, we're not speedily judged and condemned for those sins because we're under the law. I mean, Salakia, we're under grace. So that's what grace contributes to us, man. That's what being under grace contributes unto us. We're not punished as we used to be for breaking the law. All right? And that's what this grace period is. And I'm putting emphasis on that. Grace period. That means it's not going to be forever. This grace period is not going to last forever, man. All right? There's going to come a time where this grace period is going to end. And we're fastly approaching that time. All right? And that's when Yahweh Shema Shai is going to require a lot of souls, man. Because of their sins. You see, because you got a lot of Israelites out here running around here now wild. All right? Doing whatever the fuck they want to do. All right? And getting away with it. You know why? Because we're under grace, man. Yahweh Shema Shai, we're under grace. And guess what? They're going to get dealt with for that because they're taking the Yahweh Shema Shai's kindness for weakness, man. All right? Matter of fact, let me read this real quick in the book of Ecclesiastes. This is book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 8, verse 11. It says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. You see? What is this? This is because we're in a grace period, man. All right? We're in a grace period. You see, back then when you did evil, shit, you was dealt with swiftly. All right? You got caught committing adultery, you was stoned right on the spot. But nowadays, you got all type of iniquity going on. And it seems like they're getting away with it. But you know why? They really not. Yahweh Shema Shai, he knows everything. He sees everything. He just being long suffering right now. He being patient right now because we in a grace period. Okay? So I'm gonna read that again. It says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. That's right. You see, but a time is coming where the grace period is gonna end. And you're going to see a lot of deaths out here. The scripture talk about how, in the Apocrypha, it talk about how they that dwell in the latter days shall be taken in a great number. A lot of people is finna be unalived out here, man. Because of this, because you know why? Because Yahweh Shema Shai, that is going to end that grace period. And all the iniquity that's been done by them is going to be accounted for. They're going to have to give a account for that. They're going to have to answer for that. All right? They're going to have to answer for that. So you gotta understand what being under this grace, being in this grace period truly means. All right? That's why the elect, they're being wise. They doing what they should be doing in this grace period. You know? Making their bodies a living sacrifice. All right, doing whatever they need to do to please Yahweh Shem Al Shai. You know? So yeah, the grace period is is not recognized enough. All right. Yeah, but that grace is important, man. All right, because like I said earlier, the grace period is really for the elect. This is how the elect are going to be delivered. How you think they're gonna be delivered? Through this grace period, through the grace that was given them. All right. And that grace was given. The reason why we have grace is because of what Yahweh Shah did for the elect. Really for the whole nation, but first and foremost for the elect. All right? When Yahweh Shah died on the cross, he died for the elect. So that they can receive salvation. Receive that grace, Salakia, so that they can receive salvation. All right? Let me get that real quick in the book of John or St. John. And this is St. John chapter 3, verse 16. It says, for the Most High so loved the world, which that world is talking about Israel. It said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Yeah, that's when Yahweh Shai died on the cross. That whosoever believeth in him should not perish. You see? Who is that? Those that believe in him, the elect. That's another title for the elect. All right? I'll read that again. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. You see that? So that's the grace that we have now, is through the death, the Yahweh Shah's blood being shed. Okay? It's like it. Let me get Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8. It says, for by grace are ye saved. For by grace are ye saved. That's right. Because if the elect were, because if we was under the old law, the old covenant, Salakia, which under the old covenant, we were required to be justified. Well, we were justified by the works of the law, by the righteousness of the law, by keeping the law. That's how we was justified. All right. But now we're justified by faith, which is what grace contributed. Okay. So if we was justified if we was under the old covenant, should the elect to be through? Will nobody be saved, man? All right. So therefore, it had to be grace given unto us to be saved. And I say the hopeful elect. All right. So once again, it says, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8, it says, for by grace are ye saved, right, through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of the Most High. That's right. You see, it says, not of works, lest any man should boast. You see? So this is what grace is for, man. This is what grace is for. You know, it's not to not acknowledge the laws like these Christians say. All right? No. Grace is grace period is for it's really the Lord winking at a lot of our mistakes. All right? Because we can't be perfect in the law. And he's winking at that. That's really what this grace period is about. And like I said, you got these 2/3 completely, oblivious to that. All right? But yeah, like I said, I'm going to cut this short, man. I got somewhere I got to be. But I had to, get this out there. And Lord, when it's edifying. Until next time, shalom.